Welcome to Sustainable Ramona and Happy Earth Day 2021. Sustainable Ramona was founded on the premise of fighting climate change, and that is still our fundamental concern. As we began our efforts, we discovered that many changes have occurred since Al Gore warned of the existential dangers that climate change posed for our planet. First, greenhouse gases have continued to accumulate in our atmosphere, and as a result, the planet is in more danger than we were at the turn of the century. Climate change continues to be a pressing issue. However, something else has changed. Fighting climate change is no longer a trade-off between a healthy economy and a healthy planet. Now we can have both, and this presentation will tell that story. The Renewable Energy Revolution. The story begins with the economic forces which have occurred in the last 10 years. The cost of making solar panels and wind turbines has decreased dramatically. Looking at the lifetime costs of energy, what you see is that solar energy costs have declined by 89% in the last 10 years. Onshore wind generated electricity has declined by 70%. This makes the cost of electricity from these two renewable resources the cheapest source of new electrical generation. The reason for the price declines is economies of scale. As installed capacity has increased each year in this millennium, solar prices have declined. And this is also true for wind energy and electrical storage. As the volume of new renewable energy capacity has increased, it has revealed natural cost advantages of solar and wind power. The first natural advantage of renewable energy is the marginal cost of energy. Let's look at the flow of crude oil and gasoline to get to your gas station. This is representative of fossil fuels in general. Whether it is coal, oil, natural gas, or other energy forms, the fuel for the next tank full of gasoline or the next propane tank of heating fuel must be obtained by mining, drilling, or fracking. These are dangerous and costly processes. Most fuels go through a production process at a refinery or a coke plant. And there are transportation costs to move fuels, whether by rail, truck, barge, tanker, or pipeline. For renewable energy, there is no additional cost after you have installed your solar farm or wind turbines. Fossil fuels, by contrast, need long supply lines, which add costs at every step of the way. For fossil fuel generated electricity, long transmission lines are necessary, coming from large power plants and reaching out to all consumers. The EIA estimates that electricity transmission and distribution losses equaled about 5% of the electricity transmitted in the United States. By contrast, short transmission lines are possible because energy can be captured and provided locally by nearby renewable energy facilities. Shorter transmission lines equals less energy loss. A tipping point is the point at which a change or an effect cannot be stopped. Solar and lithium battery technology have passed key thresholds where they are now more economically viable than the comparable fossil fuel technologies. It has happened sooner than anyone expected. From this chart, you can see that solar became a cheaper source of energy than coal or gas, and it's been that way for several years. The key to an all-renewable energy-powered grid is dependent on scalable, utility-grade energy storage. You can watch this 15-minute video to get an overview. The bottom line, though, is that there are many different types of batteries in development for the long haul. At this time, lithium-ion batteries are in the lead and being installed around the world. What this means is that regardless of the attempts of the fossil fuel industry to delay the transition, regardless of the indifference of governments, the shift towards renewable energy is happening and will now accelerate even faster than anticipated. If this is all true, then our capitalist economy must be moving its investments towards renewable energy. And in fact, that is what is happening. Here's an example. We all know Warren Buffett. One of his companies, NV Energy Company, signed a deal with Los Angeles to build America's biggest solar farm. When completed, it will supply 6 to 7% of LA's electricity needs at less than half the cost of a new natural gas plant. In the United States, renewables are expected to see 50 times as much net capacity added in the next 3 years as nuclear and fossil fuels combined. We've truly reached the end of an era. In 2019, the power sector's carbon emissions were 11% lower than just a year earlier. Remember, the pandemic didn't start until 2020. Wind and solar power increased their share of power generation, as did natural gas. However, in a few years, natural gas will also drop in use, following the trend of coal. 2019 was historic. U.S. renewable energy consumption surpassed coal for the first time in over 130 years. What is starting to be a trend is the shutting down of coal-fired electricity generating plants. For example, the Navajo Generating Station was shut down in November 2019. It was the largest coal plant west of the Mississippi. Since then, Los Angeles and the Navajo Nation have agreed to build a green energy replacement. The Boardman coal plant has powered 500,000 homes in Oregon since 1980. It is being closed as well, shutting the largest source of greenhouse gases in Oregon. Even the oil giants see the end of an era. British Petroleum made changes to its forecast of future oil prices last year. The result was they devalued their business by $17 billion. The implications are that many of its untapped oil reserves could remain in the ground. Chief Executive Bernard Looney said, "These difficult decisions, rooted in our net zero ambition and reaffirmed by the pandemic, will better enable us to compete through the energy transition." State and federal governments are responding to the reality of climate change and the economic forces working in favor of renewable energy. Current California law requires the installation of solar panels on all new housing construction. The new policy is a community solar plan known as neighborhood solar shares. Home builders have the option to provide energy to consumers from solar farms already hooked up to the electrical grid. There's a new California policy on truck sales in California. More than 50% must be zero emissions by 2035, and all of them must be zero emissions by 2045. And a California executive order bans all sales of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035. The renewable energy revolution is inevitable. The Institute for Energy, Economic, and Financial Analysis says, technology improvements and price declines have made solar and wind the lowest cost options in most of the U.S. The coming surge in battery storage deployment is further eroding the economics of coal and natural gas generation and accelerating fossil fuel plant retirements. Thank you for your time and interest. Please view our upcoming video on why we believe Ramona should work towards getting its own microgrid. This new video will be posted on the Sustainable Ramona Facebook page in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye.